Hello, welcome along to episode 179 of Adventures in Pop. My name's Simon Jacobs, and in this episode, I want to do something that I have done occasionally but don't do often enough, I reckon, which is to kind of take you inside the songwriting process, such as it is, and kind of explain my thought process of how I go from this bit to this bit, what order do things come in, at what point do I think I'm going to have to give up because it's rubbish, or think this is great, because I'm writing a song at the moment, which, to be honest, I haven't actually finished. I don't want to necessarily play you the finished article, at least not yet, and maybe never, depending on where it gets to. But the thought process has been really interesting, and because this is a song that hasn't just been written, done and dusted in 10 minutes, it actually has caused me to, sit down and think over a period of days, what do I do at this point? What do I do next? Do I like it? Do I like it enough? And all those kind of things. Because it's a song that is intrinsically difficult to write, because I'm trying to write about some real life kind of bad news activity that has been going on here in the UK over the last few weeks. I mean, it's finished now, but there were a number of days where we had a bit of an uprising of right-wing rioting and violence and intimidation in a number of towns and cities across the UK, and luckily, it has come to an end for a whole bunch of reasons, so I don't really want to go into that particularly now. I'm more interested in how do you take an event like that, which is controversial, which has just happened, which is, I suppose, political. As soon as you start commenting on it, I think that's probably a political comment. How do you take something like that people have very recently been involved with, or certainly have very recently been reading about, and turn that into a song, and more difficult still, turn it into a pop song without, trivializing it or glorifying it or exaggerating it for effect? Because I think all of those kinds of things, because it's something real and it's something recent, if you do any of those things, if you make it sound like it was quite funny, or it was fabulous, or the world's about to end and then the world's not about to end, I don't think you're doing yourself or the situation any favours. So this is a really tricky one. Okay, let me tell you a little bit where this came from, because apart from obviously hearing the news and thinking, oh my goodness, that's very depressing, I also listened to a podcast, and in the podcast I was particularly struck, I'd say I was particularly shocked actually, by a recording of a real person, a woman in fact, who was at one of these riots. She was essentially one of the rioters, and she was screaming into the microphone. I think she was asked, why are you here to, what's your reason for coming here? Why are you so angry? And she was screaming into the microphone all kinds of stuff, which you're really best off not hearing. And then the interviewer said what was particularly distressing about interviewing this woman, who really wasn't making much sense but was very angry, very incoherently angry, was that she was carrying her baby at the same time. And then you start thinking, oh my goodness, what kind of influence is that for the child? Hopefully not old enough to really understand what's going on, but I don't know. So I found that really shocking, but it was quite a strong image of, a woman at a riot, part of the riot. So you normally just think, oh, it's a bunch of thuggy men and they're horrible. But here was a white woman with her white right-wing friends in the middle of a sort of, I guess a riot in that, they've come here to damage things and attack the police and cause kind of generalized mayhem. And it was shocking. So I had that filtered into my head, and I was thinking, okay, let's see if I can write something that is going to not be, not be dumb. And I do think it's really hard in this situation. So anyway, what I did then was I went and found some samples, and thought about what kind of rhythm. And the thing about the rhythm, we've talked about this before, is the rhythm immediately sets this tone of da 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 da, da, and you're straight away playing with the idea of creating quite a jolly, upbeat track for something that is far from jolly. Now, look, some people would immediately shy away from that. They would think that it's inappropriate. I don't think it's inappropriate at all. I think there's something quite nice about the fact that you're going to create something that really jars in that respect. But I still think, having said what I said before, I still think you've got to get the words right. You've got to really get the tone of the words right. Otherwise, you're going to write something that is going to be either blech or just embarrassing or incredibly earnest. And you don't want to go to any of those places if you can possibly avoid it. So let me play you the rhythm that I came up with, or at least I found amongst many other rhythms, and then just tinkered with, played with, put it into the right tempo, etc. It is this. Okay, so here is the dumpy dumpy dump drum pattern. And if you just add the bass to it, it is this. And a keyboard sample, it goes like this. And another keyboard that I was playing up here goes like this. And that's about it until later in the song. Now, at this point, I've got some words, I've got a rhythm and some nice samples. Let me tell you some of the words that I came up with initially, okay? I've got them right here. I wrote, excuse me for asking, for some reason that came into my head first. Excuse me for asking, can you put that banner down? Did you and your jackboot friends come here to set fire to this town? So one of the things that's really important, I think, with the words is I didn't want to just write, here's all these things happening. To get into it, I thought it might be best if I kind of address somebody. I'm talking to you, one of the so-called rioters, okay? And the other thing is, I didn't want to take on the whole thing. I didn't want to talk about the reasons. I didn't want to talk about attacking the police. I didn't want to talk about, there's a whole lot of it that is just too big to handle. But I could just hone in on a couple of things and leave the rest to people's imaginations, because it wouldn't be difficult for people to work out what I'm talking about. So, as I say, did you and your jackboot friends come here to set fire to this town? One of the things I was interested in was the fact that people travelled around the country to go to places, rather directed by social media, to go to places to cause trouble. So trouble was being caused in this town not by the people who lived there, but by people who came from outside in order just to cause trouble. And I was thinking, so you're just thinking, okay, today I'm going to go to X town to have a riot. Tomorrow, I think, the schedule says this town. I found that particularly bizarre, and I thought that was something I could hone in on. So then I went to say, maybe you should take a look at yourself. I mean, what kind of mother has a brick in one hand and a baby girl in the other? So I've gone back to that image of mum and daughter, mum and child, and just I've just joined it with some other images that were very clear about people throwing bricks either at the police or at mosques or at whatever, and just thought, oh my goodness, how is that? What kind of example is that to set? And I'm not trying to attack a particular person just because she's a mother. That's not the point. But it's just the image of woman with brick and child. I hope she doesn't throw the wrong thing. So That's the second verse. And then I'd written, somebody went fishing and it seems you took the bait. You don't believe in anything. You just know what you hate. But the silent majority are nothing at all like this. I think you'll find that most people here reject the prejudice. And that, I guess, that's what I wanted to say. That's about as far as I got with the words. And then I think I had a bit of a crisis and thought, no, I can't do this. This is too difficult. And I left it for a bit. I'm talking about, a day or two. It's still kind of going around my head, and I'm thinking, God, this one's difficult. I came back to it. I added a bit more music. I filled out the track instrumentally, but I was still pretty unsure as to whether this was going to ever see the light of day or whether I could even finish it. And I started working out how the words I'd written fitted with the music, and I started writing some more words. When I was putting the words to the music, I think I had a bit of a breakthrough moment, because it was this line about the silent majority. The silent majority, they're nothing at all like this. And I liked the rhythm of it. It was fitting very well with that dumpa-dumpa-dumpa rhythm that you heard a bit earlier. And at that point, I thought, actually, this thing about the silent majority, that is the hook, isn't it? The silent majority, that has to be the hook. That probably has to be the title of the song. Now, at this stage, I didn't even know if I had a hook or a title. I was just kind of writing blindly, thinking, I wonder where this is going. Is this going to work? So when I got to that, I thought, I've got something here. I've got a little, it's a tiny thing. The silent majority, they're nothing at all like this. That's kind of it. So I looked at how I could bring that phrase out, and the answer was do lots of kind of overdubs of the vocal, and I decided to make that little section the chorus, and as I say, call the song The Silent Majority. And then suddenly, from having that, I felt like I got something with a bit of a shape, and it had a kind of a heart to it, which was this bit, a hook. So at this stage, I was then able to, bit by bit, record a guide vocal. And a guide vocal is literally a holding vocal. It's a vocal that just tells you where does the vocal come in, what notes is it singing, how are the words being phrased. It's not meant to be beautiful, because you're literally teaching yourself the song as you're going along there. So I did it quite a few times just to think, oh, hang on, no, that's not the right note, it should come here. So I was learning it as I'm going along, making sure that the words fitted. And this is a process that can often happen in 5 seconds, which is why in those cases I wouldn't have this conversation with you, because when the whole song's written, I can't really dissect what I've done. It's all, and it's done. Here, because it was much more difficult, it took days, it's still taking days, and I can remember precisely, I did this, then I did this, then I didn't like that, I undid that, then I did this. So I'm able to explain it to you. So then, having got a guide vocal down, I then thought, let's get the rest of a vocal arrangement down. Let's just work on vocals alone, get the vocal arrangement down. And that is pretty much where I've got to. So I'm going to play you a couple of the vocal arrangements and a chorus here. I'm not going to play the whole song yet, but I'll probably be back to it in a couple of weeks. And the point of doing this is just to say to you, if you're a singer-songwriter and you're working on stuff, I've said this before, but keep going, even if you're not sure that you've got anything worthwhile. Keep going, because something might click and you'll suddenly think, right, I've got it. I've got a shape, I've got a structure, I've got a hook, I know what it's called, I think I build it around that. It may mean that you've got to change some of the things that you'd already written, or just change the rhythm of them, take the odd word out here and there. That's fine. But I guess it's a real case study of saying don't give up halfway through because you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is too difficult, or it doesn't make sense, or I don't know what the tune is, or because you might accidentally fall on it at some point later in the process, and that's a jolly good thing. So let me play you a few slices of this, and I will bid you a very good day and a good week. And I'm going to be back with some new Goldhawk Foxes music soon, but certainly I'll be bringing you some more adventures very shortly indeed. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye. So here are the vocals that finally tell you where the tune's going, and I'm picking this up in the very last verse, and then it'll go into the chorus. So why did you come here looking for a fight? And when did you give into the fear of the far right? Excuse me for asking, but can you put that banner down? Did you and your jackboot friends come here to set fire to this town? And here comes the chorus. Silent majority, well, they're nothing at all like this. And I think you'll find most people here reject the prejudice. And one more time on the chorus. And the silent majority, well, they're nothing at all like this.